we will start to see some schools or some systems start to have AI literacy as a core graduation requirement.
Not this vague AI is good or bad, just like when is it appropriate, when is it not appropriate, why and how. And this way people can finally use it how it's hopefully meant to be intended.
As a school leader, talk to teenagers as much as possible, generally as a rule. They're brilliant. They'll be honest if you give them space. They'll also tell you absolutely nothing if you don't.
Welcome everybody to the AMP to 11 podcast. We have an incredible special holiday episode coming your way. We are going to be celebrating the 12 days of Christmas, but with a twist at AMP to 11. We're going to celebrate the 11 days of Xmas with our amazing producer, Serena Reynolds, the brainchild of this incredible special holiday episode. Serena, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Brett. I'm excited for this one.
I'm sure you are. This is really a great idea you had. Do you want to introduce our incredible podcast host? Serena, would you want to...
co-host, the lovely Rebecca.
Yeah. And our other special guest today. Who else is joining us today, Serena?
We have Versha, who is always behind the scenes and helping us with everything that we do here at AMP to 11. And obviously with you at Amplify and Elevate Innovation.
Versha, would you like telling our millions of listeners at home who you are? I believe this is your podcast debut on the AMP to 11 podcast. Is that correct?
It is. Longtime listener, first time guest. So.
That is true. She has often told us about the podcast. She is a super fan. But Versha, let the world know, one, whose birthday is it today? That's really important. We get that shout out of the way.
It's my daughter's birthday, Zuzu. She's 15 today. So happy birthday, Zuzu.
And then when you're not podcasting to millions of listeners, could you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, your history, and how you got here today?
Yeah. Well, thank you for introducing me. I'm Versha Munshi-South. I'm the Chief of Staff at Amplify and Elevate Innovation. When I'm not on this podcast and not doing that job, I'm a mom to two teenagers. They're 15 today and 17. So we're entering that college journey right now. Before joining Brett at Amplify and Elevate Innovation, I was a school teacher, I was a coach, I was a school principal, and I spent about 9 years as a leadership coach at an organization called TNTP that does curriculum implementation, leadership development, science of reading rollout, basically everything in education.
So you seem like you're well versed for this incredible AMP to 11 special twist question session, courtesy of Serena Reynolds. You feeling good?
Nervous.
Rebecca, you feeling good?
Yeah, I'm still reeling from the fact that Serena told us that the real historic 12 days of Christmas was actually after Christmas. I had no idea. So I'm just still processing.
Yeah, that's true. It does say on the 12th day of Christmas, but yeah, you're right. I don't know why I thought it was leading up to. Like I have an Advent calendar in our house leading up to Christmas. So I guess you do Advent and Christmas, then the 12 days. Is that how it works, Serena?
I believe so. I'm not an expert in this field, but I did look it up, and that's what I found out from ChatGPT. Obviously, we have Advent leading up to Christmas, which is much more religious, and then you have the 12 days of Christmas, which is post-Christmas. So it's just English education, I think, coming through there.
As somebody who was educated for several years of primary school in England, I'm sure you're right.
So shall we kick this off? I've got a list of 11 questions, obviously, keeping on theme here. So I'm just going to throw out the first question and see what people come up with. So as this is post-Christmas, I want to know one bold prediction for AI in education by 2026. What's going to be the next big thing?
Well, I'll start. I thought about this a little bit, and I think that we will start to see some schools or some systems start to have AI literacy as a core graduation requirement, or there'll be a dedicated class, or it will be a dedicated section of standardized exams, something that will treat AI literacy as like a foundational skill like math or reading, that then you can take as a competency to get hired at a job, right? Like I think because there's that gap there right now between you have to have AI literacy to get a job, kind of like you have to be able to do all these other things. I see that we'll probably have some schools start to formalize that as a competency and have it either as dedicated classes or prereqs or parts of exams. That's one of my predictions.
Do you see that spanning across all the ages or just older, younger?
I hope just older. I hope that digital literacy continues to be a priority at all levels, because I think that digital literacy component of why we don't trust everything we see online and how we protect our identities and our data, I think that needs to start really, really young. My personal feeling is that I don't think students should be using at least free open AI tools at all until the later years of high school.
Thinking about budgets, and I'm thinking about education cuts and where school districts might start to try to save money. So I'm wondering, like with staffing plans, if we'll start to see school districts think about what are the parts of the day where you need a certified school teacher and what are the parts of the day that maybe could be facilitated by someone who isn't certified because you're using an AI tool, you're using an app, and you don't necessarily need a certified teacher, and making some decisions about staffing plans that way.
I think something that I hope happens in 2026, a bold prediction is many states here in the United States are looking to ensure that policy is in place. And I am starting to see, some of the work that we're fortunate to do, both the federal government and state governments are starting to put a lot more guidance and guidelines in place. So my bold prediction for 2026 is that there'll be a little bit more clarity in how, when, and why students and educators should be using AI. That's both my boldest prediction and my biggest hope for 2026.
Love that. So my next question is your current favorite AI tool. What is it and what do you actually use it?
Well, I can shout out Rebecca because I learned about this tool from the podcast. So we've been using Notebook LM for a few different things internally, but so I coach a school leadership team at a high school in Brooklyn, and they're not very open to using AI themselves, but I've been using Notebook LM to show them how I can put in our coaching agendas, their school website, their goals, feedback that they've gotten, and their internal frameworks, their rubrics, and use that to help them prioritize, figure out our agendas, figure out where they are in the middle of the school year with their goals and what might come next. So that's been great for housing all of their internal documents.
I recently used Nano Banana Pro, and I've been using it for a little while. Like, I know it hasn't come out for that long, but I have gone down so many rabbit holes and just made so many fun, exciting graphics for like keynotes and presentations. And I right now just find it to be such a fun way to bring your imagination to life. So, there's many good image generators out there, but that one right now has just like re-sparked my passion for, turning words into art. And I've really enjoyed using it lately. Made a lot of caricatures of myself in doing various things, and it's been very fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, at the time of this recording, actually, ChatGPT just launched an upgraded image generator yesterday that rivals in many ways. I think Nano Banana is still a little bit better at taking things like large amounts of data and turning it into an infographic. But I guess I'll stay on the Google train too. I would say my current favorite AI tool is actually the agents that are in Google Workspace now that make automation within your full Google ecosystem super easy. So I play with those all the time, and I've had it streamline a bunch of my systems and my processes, and it saves me a lot of time, and I love it. It's hands down at this exact moment my favorite AI tool for standardizing and streamlining different parts of my busy work.
Yeah. Hey, could we one day do a podcast episode? Like, for example, Rebecca, could you show people how you do all that?
Yeah,
'Cause
I
that'd be a
actually
whole
recorded a few YouTube videos about it just to show people. Yeah, it's actually amazing. It's probably the biggest actual measurable time saver that I've had with AI. So,
Hmm.
for example, like when someone contacts me on my website, automatically in the background, it creates a folder for them automatically with a unique ID and then summarizes the entire inquiry, researches the organization, puts it in a file inside that folder, summarizes it, sends it to me as an email, and then adds a line on my spreadsheet where I track all of my clients. And I don't do anything except for read the email when it comes in.
I have something very similar happening in Notion. So for example, if we set up a podcast recording, it will go into my Notion, it will set a list of tasks automatically, assign it to the right people, update my calendar, everything. It does absolutely everything. And then when the recording's done, it will actually take that recording, upload it, and start analyzing some of the data inside of it.
What you would like, Brett, is that at the end of a call that's been recorded, it takes the Gemini recording, it automatically extracts all of the tasks and assigns them to me, sends me an email with them and assigns them to me as tasks, and will automatically categorize that call in with the right client and send me reminders. You know, it'll do all the things in the background that we've always wanted that you could do through Zapier and all these automation tools, but there was always so much risk of it breaking or sending your personal data other places and paying a whole other subscription fee and learning a whole new platform. And now it can do all of those things right inside. So I, even if I'm having a discovery call or something, have it take the transcript, research the organization, and then write a full proposal, and then just send it to my, add it to my drafts of my email so that I can manually review it, and then adds follow-up tasks to my calendar. So it's just been probably one of the most useful tools I've found so far.
I mean, 2026 is going to be such an incredible year when people start embracing things like that. So incredible.
We always talk about how AI can save you time, but it's really hard to measure. And this is where I finally noticed, okay, now I don't have to go in and rename all these files. I have a lot of research that I read. All I have to do now is drop a PDF I've read into a folder, and automatically it creates a full directory summary of the key points, a line in a spreadsheet for me, and renames the folder and refiles it for me in a way that makes sense. And I just know how long that usually takes me. So that was a huge jaw drop moment for me, because that's the little things that take all of them. Versha, what's the AI moment in 2025 that made your jaw drop?
Well, mine's a little different since I came from a role where we weren't allowed to use AI at all. So I literally went from one day, no AI at all. Those rules were actually very clear, to working with Brad and working at Amplify and Elevate Innovation, where we're using quite a bit, right? And that's essential to all the work that we're doing. So everything is making my jaw drop, and I could say that. But when I think about time saving, and I think about the time that I would spend, for example, creating like a presentation for clients, and pulling from conversations, pulling from the previous presentation, pulling from the contract, what do we say we're going to deliver, being able to pull from multiple sources, and then really focus on the people and what is it how to connect with them in real life. That's made my jaw drop and made me feel like I do have some time back.
Yeah. I think the thing that legitimately like scared me for the first time was I don't want to get the tool wrong, but when ChatGPT released its own browser, I think it was called Atlas, and you can turn on agent mode. So one, like I think the way they did it was really well done in terms of like your screen sparkles a little bit. Actually, Serena taught me this, and it didn't work the first time. Like she was explaining it, and she's like, "Oh no, it's gonna look no, you should have this happen," and then it did like the second time I tried it. And it legitimately like is telling you what it's doing in real time. Obviously, you're not doing anything. You're assigning it a task or something, and then it's doing it. And it says like, you know, you've turned on agent mode, like you're giving control to essentially this device. And that was really surreal to watch in real time. But like it's kind of what Rebecca just said and Serena said, like it was my first experience really just giving up control to something. And I've like, we know there's things like Zapier that have been doing this in the background, but like to have it just, I don't know why, just be front and center was really, really surreal and definitely dropped my jaw. Good question, Rebecca. That was a really good one. We've already looked ahead to 2026 about what we hope bold predictions in education. What is the thing we need to leave behind with AI in education in 2025? I'm going to go reverse order. I got Rebecca at the bottom here. Rebecca, what is the thing we got to leave behind in 2025?
The same thing I always say, which is AI detectors. Like I can't even tell you, still popping up in my feed, especially since it's like exam season and submit your final essay season. I'm seeing stories about people. My own son is calling me in a panic saying, I wrote this whole paragraph and it's still getting flagged. And I tried to rewrite it 10 times and it's still getting flagged. What should I do? And I'm like, submit it. Like, let them come for you because you wrote it. You shouldn't have to change the way you write and change your own voice to match a robot. It's going against everything we want kids to do in education, and I hate it so much. I'm submitting some essays for some things too. For fun at the end, I throw them through an AI detector. Sometimes they come back like 44%, 44 sections. And I'm like, well, I know AI didn't write them. And if they want to fight with me about it, we'll fight about it because I know these tools don't work. I know I wrote this and you can't prove otherwise. We shouldn't be using these tools. We shouldn't be using these power dynamics of students and teachers to tell kids whether or not they wrote something. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
That's why they come. That's why they come. The millions of listeners. Versha, what do you think?
There's great products, right? There's lots of great tools. There's lots of great platforms. There's a lot. And I think we need to acknowledge that we've really put a lot on teachers to learn so many new things every year. And we've ended up in a place where there's a real lack of coherence in schools when it comes to a student experience of, well, I do this one kind of work in my regular math class, but my math tutoring is completely separate and apart. So I think what we need to leave behind, I just actually heard it called the Christmas tree method of, there's always one more ornament. I just need this like one special ornament. Oh, this one is really different, so I need to add that ornament. We're overloading. That Christmas tree is schools and teachers, right? And the ornaments are all the tools. And I think we need to leave behind like the new shiny thing and really think about what's coherent and makes for a good student experience and a good teacher experience where teachers aren't so overwhelmed by the passwords and the platforms and the new thing and actually can go deeper and get good at the thing that we want them to focus on.
My thoughts are around strategy and thinking. So there's been a lot of emphasis in schools and education. I know my own daughter is terrified of AI and using it and being caught using it. So I would like to see schools and education step away so much from the how well people are spelling, how their sentences are structured, and focus more on the ideas that these students are putting forward, whether that's written by AI or whether that's written. When I say written by AI, I mean it's their strategy that they for them to be marked on ideas and theory and strategy, and that move forward.
Yeah, I think I would love to see in 2026 a pivot in the conversation around AI. I hope we can start to leave behind like this vague way we talk about AI and start to like center it around specific use cases. So like when we've been traveling around the country talking to schools, we try to ground it in like not like what's an appropriate age for AI, but like what age should a student use an AI tool that might help them prioritize their schedule, their extracurricular activities, their homework, and actually listen to students' experiences and centered around that. So when we talk about what age is the right age for AI literacy or any of these things, as Rebecca said, like you can have different opinions about when it's happening, but like talking to your community around specific use cases of AI, how it would be applied, and then giving people that kind of just guidance and guardrails that match your community values, right? As long as it's obviously safe and ethical. It comes down to what you all want to do with it, but not this vague AI is good or bad. Just like when is it appropriate? When is it not appropriate? Why and how? And this way people can finally use it how it's hopefully meant to be intended. That would be amazing.
So the next question I think is what is your AI resolution for 2026?
I have one, and I've got this straight from this podcast today. I want to find out more about Google Agent. I want to go deeper on that, and that's my other ecosystem. So that would be seriously something that could be life changing.
Mine is a little more not abstract, but I've been doing a lot of reading lately about like horizontal and vertical development and how horizontal development is just like adding existing skills and tools, right? Like, so telling people, here's how you use this AI tool. Here's how you use this AI tool. It's like adding new apps to an iPhone. Vertical development is more like upgrading the whole operating system and changing how you think about things and how you operate. And I think that I'm going to change a little bit the way I talk about these things and still give people like baseline. Here's how we upgrade your horizontal understanding of what AI is and how it works and tools that are useful, but focus a lot more on helping people build capacity and seeing the bigger picture and more of the whys behind things. Less about expanding expertise and more just about being more open-minded. I think the whole like we need an AI detector. We need a tool for this, and a tool for this is horizontal development. I think we need to think more holistically about what we're trying to do and why, and expand our capacity and our vision for the future collectively, instead of just trying to add more apps to an iPhone that maybe can't, just the whole thing needs to be upgraded, and then everything will make a lot more sense. So that's what I've been thinking about.
Yeah. First I want to say, like, I know we say this a lot, but we probably should say it more. Like, the amount of wisdom that I gained from co-hosting this podcast with you, Rebecca, is incredible. And like when you're like, I was just reading this thing, I'm like, one, I don't know how you do that. So I just want to shout out like you for actually doing research. Like, you obviously can explain things really well, but like you're always constantly rooting in research. So I appreciate that. Versha and I had the pleasure of being in a school district in New York on Friday. We were leading breakouts. We did a keynote. And directly after the keynote, the superintendent and I were talking, and one of his teachers walked up to us and she said, paraphrasing, like, I almost wanted to stop you during your keynote because a question that I have is, like, when is enough enough when you're using AI? And so she had this, it was rooted in a really great thing. She uses AI. She thinks it makes her lessons better. She thinks it makes her a better teacher. But there's that idea of like, but because of how much power you can have and how it can help you so much, that she finds herself spending more time sometimes like just trying to refine it to the point where it's quote unquote perfect. And there's no such thing as perfect. And so we talked about like, how do you build an AI professional development about like, and I really hope someone on this podcast, maybe Rebecca, makes one called like, when is enough enough? Like, how do you get the best value out of AI and then like leave? And I
That's
think that's a
hard.
resolution I have. Yes, my resolution is figuring out when is it good enough that I feel good about give whatever that thing is, that it's for its intended audience, it's good enough. And then I can just feel good and like leave it alone. And that's something I find either I don't want to do any more anyway, and I don't engage with something, or I go way too deep when I find an AI tool that's helping me on a project that I enjoy. And now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, it's the middle of the night and I'm like, okay, nah, we're not done yet. So that's my
Well,
resolution.
you know what? That's part of kind of a strategy that the AI companies employ. It's called prompt baiting. And we're kind of used to it because at the end of every interaction we have, it's like, well, now do you want to do this? Well, now do you want to do this? And so they're not helping with that. But one thing, I have the same problem, Brett. Like, I'm like, edit it again, edit it again, edit it again. And I finally had to add a custom instruction saying, listen, I spiral on this stuff a lot. I could go forever and I never know when enough is enough. I need you to tell me when I'm spiraling, when I'm spending too long, when I'm starting to obsess on this, and when enough is enough. I need you to help me with that as a strategy. And it has been useful to the point where I'm like, it will say, listen, this is great. This is a level. This is fine. It's time for you to move on to something else. And I find that very, very helpful, just using AI to help with that part of it, because I think that's the hardest thing is you can go on forever. You can go down rabbit holes forever and it will always find something to change because that's its job. It's optimized for engagement to keep you interacting for as long as possible. And it's doing what it's optimized to do. And I find the exact same thing, Brett. I know I'm not alone. And I think most people probably do. So it doesn't save you time. You end up spending way longer than if you would have just done something and moved on with your life, right? That's a great point. Versha, do you notice anything like that?
From the same visit, I've been thinking about, Brett and I have been visiting a couple of more affluent schools. That's where you can really see sort of an equity divide. And I've seen it with my own kids at home too, where I've been like, there are all these great things you could use with, use AI for. And they're like, no, AI is cheating and or AI is bad for the environment. So I'm not right. So there's lots of different teenage perspectives that are some shared adult perspectives. But one thing I'm noticing with these more affluent districts is the students with means are using AI to study. And so that's a resolution that I have moving into 2026. It's like, how do I support more students in my community and my own home to use AI to study? Because I really do think that's going to differentiate students who are able to perform on tests, especially more things are in person. Teachers don't want to assign as much to do at home because of AI. But that use for studying, I think, can really make the difference for students who can personalize the way that they learn and things like that. Some kids have figured it out and some haven't. And I think that more need to have that access.
Totally. And I think that extends to adults too, right? Like the teachers who have figured out how to use it effectively versus the teachers that don't. And then the teachers who haven't had the opportunity yet to figure it out or haven't had access to necessarily the same tools or training, they're burning out even more, right? And they're not being anyway, yeah, it's hard, and it goes all the way up, right? Like I was writing about this recently, how people who understand how to do these massive backups of data or build these like offline systems to have this major technical capabilities have better security than those of us that don't. Or, like I think it's just at every level. And I don't think it's new to this. I think we find that at every layer of every technology, right? People who know how to leverage research libraries have better access to information than people who don't. So I don't even know if it's exclusive to AI. It doesn't make it right. But this is where I kind of always go back to the fact that these tools are free and there's nothing stopping anybody from figuring this out, really. Like if you're just waiting around for someone to come and give your district a PD and you refuse to sort of take initiative on your own, then like there's no reason. Everyone has access to the best AI and the best technology in the world right now. And everyone's different levels of busy and things like that. It just ends up being, just how it is. But it's always been an issue. And at least we're at a point in history where at least there's unlimited free access to the same quality for everybody. But everyone has different levels of time and expertise and capability for sure.
So the next question is, can you name your top educators or innovators we should be watching in 2026?
This is so hard. I think anyone we think is really worth watching has been a guest on our podcast. So I would add anyone who's been a guest on our podcast in 2025. If they were on our podcast, it's because we think there's somebody worth watching. So I would just go to the list of this podcast that you're already listening to, find those names, follow them on LinkedIn. That's my answer.
You're going to be Prime Minister of Canada one day with those kind of political takes. That was very well done. Wow. Yeah, I maybe not individuals. Let's not name names, but here's the kind of people that I've been seeing. Like, so just in the past 2 months, right? We've been to Tennessee, DC, Indiana, Ohio, a bunch of places in New York. And what's really great is, right, you have these people who are really showing you like how they're using it to solve a specific challenge that their district or their community is facing. And I will also say students, right? There's been a team who have done a really great job of articulating like, this is a challenge that my community is facing. This is a way I'm starting to bring technology in. I'm starting to get people excited about how to solve this. So like this year, I was really fortunate that I was selected to be for the U.S. Department of Education. They had this really cool CTE challenge, how you could use AI to solve challenges in your community. And these students from around the country like had very specific ways they wanted to either upskill or improve waste. So there are students who like wanted to improve safety on school buses. There are students who wanted to help farmers with improved irrigation and not to waste water. And so they actually went out and interviewed people in their community. They found local experts like, farmers or people in industrial fields. And they actually like came up with solutions that, obviously are in their beta stages, but like that's how innovation and change happens. And that couldn't have happened pre-AI where students could get access to some of this research. They could have interviewed people, but like those next steps, they couldn't have done it as quickly. And then obviously what's great is they have teachers in their lives and they have these industry leaders that they could have like vet this work and see if it was accurate or not. So anyway, that was really exciting for me. Those are the people I want to watch, is people who are using AI to solve challenges. Like that student of the year, I think from Time, who it came up with, I forget the application on skin, but it would help you with detecting of skin cancer, which is, obviously one of the largest types of cancer. And he did it because in his community, he noticed that was going to be a huge issue they're facing. So anyway, long-winded saying, people who are curious and then use AI to solve challenges are who we should be watching out for and supporting and championing in 2026.
Love that.
I'm going to get in before Versha. I'm going to say you all have to follow Rebecca on social media, and you have to listen to AMP to 11, and you have to follow Brett as well as Rebecca on everything, because they're amazing and they're on top of their game. And I learned so much just being in this ecosystem.
I learned so much from Brett about who's doing great work and what they're doing. Like I talk in a lot of abstracts of you can use it like this, you can use it like this might be a problem. But Brett is actually great at pointing to the people who are doing the actual work and the actual things and making a difference. And that's what I love, because there's people I don't even know I should be following. So thank you for that.
And well, let's just keep the compliment train going. And so what's really been great about Versha joining is like same thing, right? You bring networks and you bring people you trust together, and she'll be like, have you met this person? Or like, do you know about this association? And oftentimes, like, right, our networks are limited to our networks. They could be big or small, but they're still limited. So that's been a really good perspective this year, is just, and from Versha being like a school board member, like that was really unique, because while I know many people in the field of education, I don't really pick the brains or think from the unique perspective of someone on a school board. So that's been a really also like unique way to think about what are the challenges people are facing. Like as Versha mentioned before with budgets, like that's top of mind for school boards, especially.
So, the next question that we have on our docket is our best advice for educators who are just starting their AI journey. And I actually gave this one quite a bit of thought because, Brett, you and I run into people all the time still who are just starting their AI journey for a variety of reasons. Maybe they just have been scared until now, or thought it was going to be beyond their capabilities, or they were against AI and they didn't think it belonged in the classroom, and now they're starting to realize it's inevitable. And as part of, again, some of the reading I do for my research, and I've talked about this before, um, I would just like encourage people, and this is something I've had to do too, is sit in what we call aporia. And aporia is this feeling. It's from a Greek term that kind of means sitting in that messy space between what you've always known and what you don't know. And it's kind of where your old mental model that's always worked for you no longer fits the territory map of what's happening. And it's really disorienting. Students have to sit there all the time. That's where they live. And I think I would just encourage people to be okay sitting in aporia, because they're not the only one who feels like they don't know what's going on. I feel like that every day. I'm sure the rest of you do too. And so just, I would want people to know, my best advice would be it's okay to not have it all figured out and to feel uncomfortable in the not knowing, because that's how most of us feel. We just have to sit in this cognitive dissonance. You're never going to feel like, okay, now I love AI and now I hate AI. You just have to be comfortable with sitting in both simultaneously. And it's a really uncomfortable place for most people to sit. They just want easy answers, and they just want a checklist of, okay, I'll learn this, I'll learn this, I'll learn this, and now I know AI. And really, it's going to be more of that I don't know, that vertical learning where you have to just kind of reframe every day what you think. And my second piece of advice would be like, you don't have to understand everything. Just pick one tool that you like, and that's good enough, and find a way that it works for you. And when you feel comfortable with that, try something else, but there are no actual rules. That would be my advice to somebody who is just starting out, that it's okay to not know everything.
Versha, what are your thoughts on that? You've been dealing with a lot of educators lately who are on their AI journey starting point.
Yeah, I mean, and we've been working with districts that have purchased things, right? And so I think my advice would be start with what your school or district purchased or what partnership they have. Because I think that's where things can get really overwhelming, right? Is like, am I using, and we get that question a lot, like, Brett, what do you think is better? Is it Chat GPT? Is it Gemini? Is it this? And you always give the answer of something along the lines of like, it doesn't really matter, right? Like you pick something and use it, and then you can kind of do the same things in a lot of different settings. So I would say like start, and that coherent experience for kids is so important. So as a kid, it's not really going to help me if you're using Magic School and Chat GPT and Gemini. I mean, maybe if you figured out exactly what you can get from all of those, but to start, I would say, what are people in your school using? Because then you can really build community on like, what did you figure out in Magic School, and like, let's help each other with that. Let's just start there.
Yeah. The philosophy that I've been really trying to make sure people hear is AI tools are important. And like we've just all heard, the tool is agnostic, but like the mindset and how you're using it is crucial. So whether it's working with district leaders, classroom teachers, building leaders, instructional coaches, I've really been using that AI sandwich strategy analogy and really saying like the part that's been frustrating you, like we were working with some of the leaders who are coaching, principals across New York City. And we were like, it's usually frustrating because of what you're doing in the top bun of the strategy, which is if you're not providing all the resources or context to that exact task you're trying to do, then you are going to be frustrated by the output. So the analogy I'm using a lot with teachers is when I show like metacognition of how I'm thinking about it, I'm going to say, hey, you and I just got paired up as co-teachers, and you are a great teacher, and so am I. And before I can do my job the best, I'm going to ask you a million really annoying questions to make sure I understand how you teach and really push you to explain your thinking on why you do what you do every day in the classroom, the magic that is you as a teacher, the personal, expertise, wisdom, values you have. And I show them that while we're recording it, whether we're using a voice memo tool, so it's just a free flowing conversation, or we're using the recording tool on, whatever device their school's purchased. And what's great about that is teachers recognize immediately they've done this before. The difference is you might not have to type it in. And the difference is you might be more creative because you can just have a conversation and be present with someone. But the end goal is if you get all of that and then you say like, hey, before I hit click on this tool, again, agnostic of the tool, do you have the way you taught this lesson last year or like the unit plan or like your last observation or what your principal or superintendent said is the instructional priorities? Since we're just going to like click a button anyway, why don't we just throw all that in before and see what it does? And that's when people see the magic of it. So I guess that's my advice is just before you start using tools and get frustrated, or like if your district has training opportunities, just really think about if you had the best co-teacher in the world and they wanted to do their job the best way possible, what information do you have to make sure they would know about you, your classroom, your district, your community, before you said, okay, go off and make that lesson. I'll look at it tomorrow before we make copies. So that'd be my advice to people on their learning journey. Serena, take us home.
Wow, I feel like a fraud here because I'm not an educator. But I will share my experience with AI and learning about AI, and it is just to stay curious, not to shut the door, not to close your mind, listen to what other people are saying, experiment, try, play, and have fun with it. It can be absolutely amazing and life changing.
Brett, I think this next question is probably better suited for you. It's about what the must attend AI events for AI in education are in 2026. And I have to confess, this isn't one I feel strongly about because I don't attend a lot of events and I know you do. So I'm actually going to let you take this one away.
Okay. Well, I've given this so much thought and my calendar is already packed with some great events for 2026. I'm going to name the ones that are coming up in the first half of 2026. And maybe we'll have to do this again and we'll give you maybe a summer edition of this later. But in the first few months, here's some places I'm definitely going to be. I'm going to be at FETC in January. An incredible, they have many incredible speakers attended by thousands of educators and leaders. One of the keynotes this year is Alana Winnick, who has been a guest of the AMP211 podcast, who is truly just one of my favorite people to listen and learn from, not only because she's an incredible leader, but because she really centers student voice. She's created amazing organizations that students take the lead on and they teach education leaders. But the reason I really love an event like FETC, which is held in Orlando every year in January, is because it really kicks off the year with people looking for a way to engage with others. And they just have so many different people. I spent literally an hour looking at their agenda just to see who's speaking there and how excited I got, just being like, I can't believe that person's coming, or I can't believe they got this person, or that topic is so relevant right now. So that's one I would honestly say is just incredible and is a great way to start off the year. Coming up in spring, it's usually held in April of 2026, is the ASU GSV Summit. That is probably where I learned how powerful connections and convenings are. I got to attend for the first time in 2021, right after leaving the New York State Department of Education. I had the opportunity to speak there, and I just truly had my mind blown as to what's happening in education and just the access points when you just have a moment to speak to people in those fields who are truly leaders, the ideas that can come out of it, the collaboration, and more importantly, like the lifelong friendships I've gained just from going there. And those informal moments are like, those are the people that I consider my greatest thought partners and friends post being in a school building every day for 16 years. So that's truly a one of a kind experience that I would recommend anyone do at least once in their lives, just to see what happens when you bring all these different stakeholders together. And then the one that's, I think, the largest in terms of attendees and the one that's just incredible to kind of end the school year and really think about what you're going to do next year is ISTE plus ASCD. That's usually held in late June or early July. This year, also coincidentally, it will be held in Orlando, Florida. So, two opportunities to visit the Sunshine State. The reason I love it is just the scale. You're talking tens of thousands of educators. There are education leaders as well as, technology companies and innovative solutions. But I just love that there's so many educators, people who are going there, usually sent by their district or charter community or whatever, and they just love learning and just getting that at scale just is so inspiring, right? I mean, it's a small percentage of the US teaching force, but it's also an international community. So I've had the chance to meet people there from all over the world. So it's great to just listen and learn as like what they're doing there. I actually had a small role in like interviewing educators at the last ISTE event, which was held in San Antonio in 2025 this year. And even just walking around, just some of the people I met were from all over the world, and they just had such unique perspectives on why they were there, what they hope to gain from it, what they want to bring back to their countries. So those are ones that I think are just you cannot miss. And then there are great regional ones like that. Many states in the United States have their equivalent of an ISTE. In fact, there's one happening in Ohio, I think, coming up. Rebecca, you know anything about the one that's happening in Ohio this year, and maybe anyone who might be speaking there?
I think there's the Ohio Educational Technology event, February 10th to 12th. And I heard one of our podcast guests, Marlon, was actually going to be one of the keynote speakers there. That's the rumor. Anyway, Marlon Styles.
That is one of three major keynote speakers that will be there. Marlon Stiles, who is an AMP211 guest and an incredible educational leader. Richard Kulata, the CEO of ISTE plus ASCD, the organization we just talked about. And then this other person, Rebecca Bultsma, I think it says how you say it, Rebecca Bultsma.
I think so. I think I've heard of her, and I think she will be giving a keynote there as well, maybe the closing keynote. So if you're in the area, check it out.
And it's a full circle moment because that is where I saw Rebecca for the first time give a keynote. It was in Ohio, and I've seen her do another keynote this past year. So I hope I get to go to that because if I get to see Rebecca keynote 3 times in 3 years in the state of Ohio, I mean, doesn't really get much better. So that's some educational events that I would recommend folks go to. But BETT is also an incredible event that happens in the UK, I believe in London, to kick off the year. I've never had the privilege of going there, but for those that are located in Europe and those that have the ability in the United States to attend, I have heard it really is a transformational experience. Again, bringing people from around the world together is very important in the age of AI. So that's another event that while I can't personally say I've been to, the folks that come back have told me that's something you really should try to experience at some point in your life, just because it's getting to see it from a global perspective that I don't always have the privilege of doing.
Hmm. I'll tell you what, I'll go along there and I'll do a podcast and invite you on virtually.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Serena.
Yeah, so my background is comms, marketing, PR. So my favorite is actually one called Macon, and it's mostly like a marketing AI. But there's an artificial intelligence podcast that I've listened to for years. These are the guys that put it on. It's more private sector. It really has nothing to do with education, but they do have kind of an AI education for business leaders arm. So they are kind of teaching things like that, same but different. But Pat Young Pratt and I, one of our other former guests, were both speaking there this last year. And so outside of education, that's a good one. But again, those were kind of my OG people. So
Yeah, thank you. And Versha?
Honestly, I don't love conferences, unless I like smaller ones. So I have my eye out, but I don't have any to share right now.
Well, then maybe you could let folks know. I mean, just even recently, you've been to a couple regional ones, both in your roles, as a board member, both in your role at Amplify and Elevation. Like, what were some of the ones you've been to recently, and like what made them good, small, intimate, convening, so people know what to check for when they go?
Yeah, so I just went to the Connecticut School Boards Association conference in Mystic, Connecticut about a month ago. And, what I liked about that, being a school board member, you have people who never worked in education, you have accountants, you have lawyers, you have community members, but it's an education conference. And so what I really appreciated, and Miguel Cardona, who's the former Secretary of Education for the United States of America, was the keynote speaker, and he was talking a lot about like workforce readiness, right? So no matter what your entry point is, you can understand that like we need to be educating students who can have economic and social mobility as they grow older, right? So everyone can understand that, everyone can get behind that, and so I like conferences where it's like that. There's a lot of entry points. Doesn't really matter what your background is, your expertise. There's something there for you. And there's smaller breakout sessions. And actually at that conference, I met Matt Mervis, who also has a podcast about AI and education. He works regionally in Connecticut, Massachusetts area. So it is always a great opportunity to connect with other people and hear the work they're doing if it's similar or different. I appreciate when not all conferences allow you to do that. I think some kind of you really have to know people, be an insider, and appreciate when there's opportunities to be in smaller settings so you can actually build relationships.
Hmm. So key takeaway, regardless of the size, there's opportunities to really meet people who could have a major impact on your life. So if nothing else, regardless of the size, the scale, just really try to connect with folks. Sounds like one key takeaway wherever you're going in 2026.
I just ride on Brett's coattails at those events. I've met hundreds of people by just standing in proximity to Brett at a conference. I've never seen anything like it in my whole life. It's amazing. Moths to a flame, almost. People are drawn to him, and he remembers everybody, where they met, things about them. It is a true art that I wish I had that level of people skills. That's my favorite thing about Brett, actually.
Well, I'm honored. And so your advice is just look for Brett Roer and stand near, but don't get burned by those flames.
Just enjoy just enjoy the show. I send Brett all the time these little sneaky stalker videos I take of him networking, because I'm usually standing off to the side, like, out of the way, and I'll just send him, like, these little videos of him, like, in his element, and it is truly remarkable. It's a real art,
I've
so
learned I laugh like that a lot, which I didn't know I do. I gesticulate a lot, and my facial expressions are very over exaggerated, but authentic.
that's like me when I'm giving a keynote, though. I can't get a good picture of myself giving a keynote. I guess we both have our own areas where we're in our element.
There you go. What
Yep.
a bow on that present. Okay. What's the next question?
It looks like one question every school leader should be asking in January. And we have actually had some really interesting podcast experiences over the last several episodes where we've been working with a specific organization called the Rhythm Project that specializes in asking great questions. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit more about that, Brett, for people who may have missed our last few episodes? Because we actually use these questions all the time now.
Yeah. So we were really honored to have Michelle Culver, who's the founder of the Rhythm Project, and some of her team members join us and some of us here to play the AI effect game. And what made that such a special experience is these are scenarios that are very open to interpretation. The one that I ask a lot when I do keynotes or breakout sessions is, using an AI chatbot as a teacher or education leader to prepare for a difficult conversation with a parent. And the whole premise of the game is you, in a circle, let everyone have equity of voice, and you just decide whether using AI in that format will strengthen human connections, will erode human connection, or it depends on the context. And obviously, the answer you give of those three cards is not the most important thing. It's what you say after and why. And so, in the past 3 months, I think we did the math with the Rhythm Project. I think I've played that game now with over 1,500 educators in like 5 states, and I've had leaders so down in Tennessee, we did it, Rebecca was there, also keynoting, and one of the leaders from Metro Nashville, the next week, coincidentally, I'm in Washington, DC in a very small setting, maybe 40 people total, and she happens to be one of them, and she immediately walked up to me and said, "I just played, the Rhythm Project AI Effect game because she won one of the decks of cards with the leadership team of Metro Nashville, and we're wondering how we can bring it to our whole state." In Indiana, we played the game and we actually just asked people, hey, if you want free resources, just fill out this Google form. So it's an opt in, it's not we're giving it to you. And we actually got about 42 educators to fill it out. And then we just asked them, like, what's your reach? So if you're an educational classroom teacher of an elementary school, you got like 25 kids. If you're a high school teacher, maybe 100 kids. If you're a superintendent or a district leader, maybe more. But those 42 people, if they all played the game, it said 40,000 students would be impacted if they played that game in those communities that they have just actual access to. So the thing that I love about it is everyone immediately grasps how important it is to have these conversations and how quickly it breaks down barriers. So the questions are important. And we've actually been like noodling with the Rhythm Project on like what are some other really cool scenarios that might get, again, just deepen thinking for students, parents, and educators. But I guess those types of questions would be the most impactful ones to help you shape policy and guidance, because the way that we're using it authentically is with consent, we're recording some of those games And then we're showing people, well, how does this align to your current guidance? Could you take some of this wisdom from your students, parents, teachers, and just revise your guidance? Because now you know what they actually are looking for or want or need more support in. And people immediately go, yeah, we should just be asking them this, capturing the wisdom, and using an AI tool to align it further to our policy, our beliefs, and our values. So like it's just the best thing I've seen as a segue to cut the noise from like circular arguments or circular conversations that just don't move the needle to like, yep, ask these questions, record it, use an AI tool to map it to what you currently have and see if, and every time people are like, this just makes it better for our community.
After playing that game for the first time, I actually walked away. And for weeks later, I was referring back to some of the conversations that we had and really being reflective on what actually transpired just in that short game that we played together. And it was fun, it was friendly, but it was really deep. It really like honed in on some of the crucial thinking that we need to do around AI, and that's my takeaway from that experience.
So there's questions that I ask other people and questions that I ask myself. So the question I'd ask I say, talk to teenagers as a school leader, talk to teenagers as much as possible, generally as a rule. They're brilliant. They'll be honest if you give them space. They'll also tell you absolutely nothing if you don't give them space. So they kind of hold tight their opinions, but you give them space, they'll share them. I ask my own kids every few weeks, how are you allowed to use AI at school? And how do you want to use AI? And their answer for how do you want to use AI has consistently been, I don't want to. How are you allowed to has consistently been, we're not allowed to. And so I think that's, great data, right, for district leaders, for school leaders to understand. I mean, obviously they might think they know how kids are allowed to or not allowed to. We've learned that they don't necessarily. So that's what I would ask kids. And I'd ask them like every once in a while because the answers can change. What I'd ask myself as a school leader, if you've been a school leader, you know that your day gets filled up with a lot of things that you don't want to be doing. And what you really want to be doing is spending time with teachers and spending time with kids. So what I'd ask myself is, what am I doing that gets in the way of spending time with teachers and spending time with kids? And could AI help me with that?
I think for me, the most important question is who's being left out of the conversation. And I think we talk a lot about teachers and students, and we forget about parents, we forget about support staff, and we forget about giving them a voice in what's happening, how it's used, and making sure that they are starting from the same place of knowledge and understanding, and that their voices are valid too in the conversation around AI and education because they're part of it as well. And so I think that most important question is, who are we not hearing? Whose voice is not being heard in this conversation? And that could be broadly, like maybe there's specific areas or districts that are underrepresented. Maybe there are particular roles. I just think that's an important conversation to stop and have. Like, who are we not hearing from in this conversation that we should be talking to? So that would be an important question to add to the list. And it looks like the last question on our list is about a fresh perspective on AI we learned from a student in Versha. It looks like you get this on the regular from your own in-house expertise, your own children. So what's a fresh take, a hot take, a fresh perspective that you've learned from a student, whether in your own house or that you've come in contact with?
Yes. Yes. So we do have our in dinner time focus groups, but actually, I think the most interesting conversations we've had lately have been with kids telling us how they personalize their own learning. And if you've been a teacher, you know that personalizing learning for kids is probably one of the hardest parts about being a teacher. I have 20 kids, 25 kids. They all have different needs. How do I meet all of their needs? I know that I'm not meeting all their needs. What we're hearing from kids is like they know themselves the best, right? They know their own learning style, and kids actually using AI to personalize their own learning, whether it was, it's tell me this period in history like it's a scene from Gossip Girl, or tell me about this, like what I'm learning in calculus, like show it to me in a podcast or make a video for me. They know what they respond to. And so that's been cool to see kids really take ownership of their own learning, and be able to speak to that too.
The things that I've learned, a fresh perspective from AI, are I follow a bunch of teenage content creators on TikTok who show exactly to an audience of their peers how they're using AI to uh, cheat, in air quotes, whatever that looks like, or get around these what schools think are bulletproof, AI proof assignments and tools. And I learn a lot from that. And I think a lot of teachers and educational leaders could learn a lot by either just talking to kids about how they're using this or how they feel about it, as opposed to just thinking that they know. I think I've also, not even a fresh perspective, but like I have a son in college who, what I learned from him is how stressful being under the gun of an AI detector actually is for students and how unfair it is to put students in that position. So it's not necessarily a fresh perspective, but if you talk to kids about stuff like that, maybe they don't care because in a lot of the older mindset, school's supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to be a bad experience and it's supposed to be hard because we're all about rigor. But it feels different in a lot of different ways. And so that's another fresh perspective that I've learned. Another interesting, the final kind of fresh perspective has to do with something what you said, Versha. We have this generation of kids, especially kids who have been in high school the last 3 years, who are ending up in college, who have been like brainwashed, honestly, by their teachers and their leaders that AI is bad and terrible and evil and wrong, and they should not be using it, which is a major disservice to students who are going to have to enter a workforce where this needs to be a part of their everyday life. And so that's unfortunate in my mind because there's a very specific group, like I'm saying, kids were in like ninth grade to like first year university over the last 2 years in particular, who have a wildly different perspective of AI than anybody outside of those groups. And I think it's unfortunate. So I'm hoping that's something we can kind of course correct along the way. But that's been something that was interesting as a perspective on AI that I've read about in research and actually seen reinforced through conversations. And I think, Versha, you've kind of even just reinforced it a little bit as well.
I've got a 19-year-old who is exactly that age group. She started off in university this year and she is terrified of using AI. She thinks it's cheating, she's going to get caught, she's going to get kicked out. It's a real problem, and I'm seeing it on the other side of the industry, in the workplace side of things, and knowing that if she doesn't get up to speed, then it's going to be impossible for her to catch up now. And she's looking at law, she's looking at the thinking profession, she's looking at politics and law, which is deep in um, papers and research and historical data. There's not a better tool for it to start off on her journey, and it's terrifying to be the other side of that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of like specific students that I want to like not shout out by name, but kind of the organizations or districts they're from. So like this summer, we had an AI summit at the University at Albany. And again, Alana Winnick's organization, Students for Innovation, they did a virtual session where they spoke to all the district leaders. And what stood out to me was how by having students tell you that it helped them learn personally. So one student talked about how it helped them really master the English language as a newly arrived student in America. That really got people to recognize, right, we need to give access to certain tools safely and ethically to those types of learners because of how quickly it can help them learn on their own time and get more integrated into the community quicker. We had a student who had dyslexia who shared by just being given access to certain AI tools that they otherwise wouldn't have had access to, they again feel like they're more integrated into the community and they're thriving educationally. One student that we interviewed for one of our wisdom collection sessions in the district said this quote that we share really every keynote we have, which is like, AI is a great tool, but it doesn't care about you. And making sure that teachers here, we know what the data and statistics are about how students are turning to AI tools because they don't have other connections in their lives, maybe, or it's difficult for them to talk about difficult topics with the people in their lives. But many students recognize like they don't know what they don't know and they're looking for your help and guidance. And if you don't provide it to them, yeah, they might start turning to AI tools because no one else is there helping them navigate being a teenager right now, it seems like. So that idea that like they know it doesn't love them, but they also don't seem to be finding that support in other areas of their life at school or in the family. or from friends. That's terrifying, but also they know it. And this idea that teens keep saying to us that they also know that they care a lot about their authenticity. They care a lot about with their friend group, like when to use AI and when not to, like what's the right amount to use it. And without that kind of like guidance or just because like, again, we didn't grow up with it. So we've never been teenagers. So like the real experience of like, we all probably had these moments of like, am I like being phony or inauthentic with your peer groups or whatever? And that might be a term someone might say about you. And that's like really offensive in high school to teenagers. That's their identity. They know like AI is shaping their identity. They just don't know how and to what extent it matters. But they're like thinking deeply about this stuff. And so one of the things that we've actually talked with some districts is like, let's build some AI etiquette courses and really teach people when it's okay to use it, when it's not, or like just even how to explore this. Cause we might not know the answers, but just like even having your community talk about it could like lower that anxiety and temperature that Rebecca's talking about from an academic standpoint, but it's also like social emotional learning standpoint that that probably is most top of mind for me right now based on what I'm hearing students say every day. What's a really fun way, a fun or exciting way that you've been using AI in 2026 personally that you just want to make sure people know exists? Just maybe they want to try it in 2026. If their New Year's resolution is to maybe engage a little more with AI, what's one cool thing they could try that might surprise them how much fun it is?
My takeaway would be to use an agent, talk to it, like ask it to do something for you and see what it comes up with. Any agent, just play with agents. That would be my takeaway, and just see the difference that that makes to what tasks you could actually get it to do and save you time.
I think I'm the wrong person to ask because, like, my definition of fun is really nerdy, and I'm not li I don't identify as a fun person, if we're being totally honest.
All right, what's the nerdiest way someone should engage with for our nerds out there, for our listeners, for our self-proclaimed nerds like Rebecca?
So, I like just seeing every point of view, like, on everything. I'm so curious. That is, like, my corest of core values, and so if I'm thinking about something or if I've read something, I like just hearing what all the possible pushbacks would be, even if I write something. That's fun for me. But I would say if you really want to have some fun, go to it's the Google kind of beta site where all they try out all their latest things.
Well, Rebecca's doing some research on the side. Versha, what are your thoughts? What would you like to share with our millions of listeners?
I also don't identify as a fun person, but that could be a whole other
That's
podcast.
why we align with Brett because he is like the
I
funnest.
know. I know. It's a yin and yang. Brett brings in non-fun people to balance it all out. I love hosting. I love feeding people. So what I think is fun is using AI to help me figure out everyone's numerous dietary restrictions and what I can actually put in front of people. And by those people, I also mean just the three other people who live here who all have very different tastes of helping me figure out the harmony of meal planning. That it's sad. I don't call it fun. I call it satisfying and also reduces stress.
That's perfect, by the way. Okay, Rebecca, take us away.
Google Labs. If you want to have some fun, go to Google Labs. It's where they test all of their cool latest ideas. Like Notebook LM was born in Google Labs, and they just throw up like 10, 20, 30 different tests they're putting out there. So one is like Pomeli. You just put in your brand and your website, and it will give you a full rundown of marketing plans in your brand color and social media posts. There's another one called Opal, where you can just build an individual app immediately. There's a brand new one that just launched called CC that will, right now, it's only available on your personal account, but it will give you a morning rundown of you've got these bills coming up, you have this on your calendar, here's your rundown for the day, which is similar to something I've been using on ChatGPT called Pulse. But they have hundreds of just random AI things on there they're testing out. Mix boards, art things. So I would say for fun, just go experiment and play around in Google Labs a little bit because it's actually so cool.
I am going to say for people, I find the thing that I cannot believe I'm still teaching people that truly every time they're like, I never did it like this. One is record something with consent. Record a conversation and be present. So on your phone, use voice memo. On your computer or iPad, use voice memo. With consent, record it. It could be about like Versha just said, go sit with your family and be like, hey, I want to make a meal plan for the next week. I want everyone to tell me everything they want me to know about what I should get for ingredients for the upcoming week. And then just record that and have it make that meal plan you're talking about. Or my family is trying to plan a vacation. We got 12 people, way too many chefs in the kitchen there trying to plan something that's going to be satisfying for everyone. But I love doing it where I'll have everyone talk and then take that and say, based on this, what are some ideal locations that would satisfy all the adults here? And how would I explain to each of them how this satisfies what their interests are? Try that. I think that would be the most fun thing you could do with consent. And you could do it on phone calls too. So again, like I was just at the gym this morning and my wife started asking me very important questions about Christmas presents and wrapping and who's getting this thing I bought. I was like, oh no, it's happening. I'm never going to be able to remember this. So I said, hey, can I just record this? And I promise you then like in 2 minutes when the recording comes, I'll send you a very coherent text message with all the next steps. So like even ways like that, as Versha said, just reducing anxiety for me. And it's just more fun. Like it really is fun to take a conversation and not be stressing in the moment. Oh shoot, I don't have a pen. I can't write this down. I don't want to forget this important stuff because it matters to me and my family, but I don't have the exact tools that I need to make this happen. But now you do. So that would be something I hope you try in 2026. And let us know in the comments how these go.
I think that's a wrap on our special, truly 11 Days of Christmas episode, Serena, the post-Christmas extravaganza that is the AMP to 11 Days of Christmas.
Yeah, thanks Versha for joining us, and thanks Serena for this incredible idea.
And we look forward to lots of exciting conversations, learning more in 2026 with amazing guests. And hopefully, I wonder if any of our predictions that we made earlier in the show will come true. We can revisit those at the end of next year and see how close we came. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's do it. Have a great holiday season whenever you're checking this out, and wishing you and your families a safe, relaxing end of 2025 and an inspiring start to 2026. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.